The Darkness Within, a Harry Potter sequel. Chapter 7. "Centaurs!" Victoria cried. "Harry, do you think they've taken him?" She made as if to rush from under the cloak, but Harry grabbed her waist and pulled her back. Seconds later, the thunder of galloping hooves sounded all around them. The two trees were quickly surrounded by centaurs. Harry pulled Victoria to lean against a trunk and held a hand to her mouth. One centaur rode to the front of the herd. The human part of him was pale. He had cream skin, blonde hair, and piercing blue eyes. The horse part was smoky black. He reared up, his massive hooves barely missing them. "We told you never to come here again, dark boy wizard. Reveal yourself, we know you are here." Harry turned to Victoria and put his finger to his lips. He then stepped away and lifted the cloak from himself, leaving only her covered. The centaurs nearest to him neighed, and 24 bows were instantly bent towards him. "I come in peace," said Harry. "I am Harry Potter. I'm looking for someone." The centaurs turned to each other and began muttering. Several looked towards the sky. The pale centaur stepped forward and leaned down until his face was level with Harry's. Harry did not take a step back. After a few seconds, the centaur straightened up. "It is Harry Potter," he declared. The bowstrings were relaxed, and the centaur's expressions turned from anger to curiosity. "You are a friend of our kind," said the pale centaur. "I fought alongside you in the battle against the Dark Lord. I was a foal then, but I remember that you fought bravely." He held out his hand, and Harry took it. "As did you, Yesiah. I almost didn't recognize you." "It has been a long time," Yesiah replied. "What brings you to our forest? Do you know the boy who has been tampering with dark magic?" "I do," said Harry. "He is very important to my friend." He gestured to Victoria, and she slowly pulled off the cloak. "And I?" Yesiah glanced in her direction. "We have seen her and the boy come here sometimes. We do not trouble students from the castle, since our alliance at the battle against the Dark Lord. But recently, the boy has been bringing evil spirits with him. We chased him away. We cannot allow such things in our forest, Harry Potter." "I understand. It's not his fault. He's suffering from the grief of loss." Yesiah sighed. "A grief we must all learn to live with. What will you do with him?" "We are going to try and save him. We must find him before it is too late. Do you have any idea where he went?" "We followed him to the eastern border, then left him there. Harry Potter, you must be careful. He is carrying Albus Dumbledore's wand, the one spoken of in prophecy." "I know," said Harry. "Thank you, Yesiah." Yesiah bowed gently, then raised his head. His eyes glazed over. "The evening star is rising early." The rest of the centaurs looked to the sky. "Yes, well, we'll be going then," said Harry. "Have a good night." "The balance of light and dark has been disrupted," Yesiah muttered. "A sinful presence re-emerges." Victoria stared at the fading sun, barely visible beneath the tree canopy. "You can tell that from the sky?" "Let's be going, Victoria," Harry said, patting her shoulder. They walked away from the tree bench, the centaurs parting to make room for them. The pair walked in silence for some time, following the magic arrows carved onto the trees. When the edge of the forest came into view, Victoria spoke. "I can't think of anywhere else, Harry. There's nowhere else we went." Her voice broke on the last word. Harry stared at the castle as it came into view. It was now dark enough that the upper towers could no longer be seen. Gryffindor Tower, the one he always searched for first, was shrouded by the night. "It's late," said Harry. "Let's get some rest and start again in the morning. We won't find anything in this light, anyway." She nodded sadly, and they headed towards Hogwarts. They would spend the night there, he decided, to avoid having to repeat the same battle with Fleur the next morning. If it was him, Harry thought, he would hide somewhere within or near the castle. There was nowhere he knew better in the world, even now, and there were plenty of places to remain unseen. Of course, the obvious choice for Teddy would be... "Surely not," said Harry, stopping in his tracks. It's just too obvious. It's the first place you would think to look. Or it should be. Brilliant, in a way. What, Harry? Said Victoria, standing in front of him. What are you thinking? Harry did not answer. He turned around, facing Hogsmeade. Silhouetting the horizon, one tree stood out above all. A tree that had doubled in size since Harry's time at Hogwarts, and even then it had been gigantic. The Whomping Willow. You think he's hiding in the Shrieking Shack? Victoria asked, as they rushed down the hill. Isn't that just too easy? He'd know we would look there. Would we? Harry responded. We've just spent the whole day apparating around the country, and it never occurred to either of us until now, and only because I happened to stumble on the idea. Maybe I'm wrong, but it just makes sense, doesn't it? Victoria shrugged. Well, I hope you're right, Harry. Has he taken you there before? Once, when we first met. I think he was trying to impress me. After 10 minutes, they reached the Whomping Willow. Harry no longer needed Cat to help him past the deadly branches of the attacking tree. He pointed his wand at the trunk, muttered Immobulus, and every swaying branch froze. Harry headed towards the base of the tree, gesturing for Victoria to follow. Once at the roots, they squeezed into the hole and crawled through the tunnel. Keep your head down, Harry whispered, as he bumped his own head. He hadn't used this tunnel since he was 13 years old. It was much more difficult to navigate now. After several minutes, the tunnel began to curve upwards, and light was visible ahead. A voice, no, several voices, were audible. Harry locked eyes with Victoria and placed a finger to his lips. He covered them with the cloak, and together they edged towards the wooden door, on the other side of which was the Shrieking Shack. One of the voices was definitely Teddy's. Victoria stared desperately at Harry. He shook his head and gestured patience. He leaned gently against the door. It creaked. He backed away. They were beyond the Hogwarts grounds now. If they entered the building and Teddy heard them, he would know he had been discovered and disapparate. The two of them turned their ears towards the door. I got the bones of their parents, just like you said. Teddy's voice. Very good, said another voice. An icy chill ran down Harry's spine. He never thought he would hear that voice again. Now, the flesh, said a third voice, similar to the second. Harry was confused. Who else had Teddy summoned from the land of the dead? Where am I going to get flesh of a servant? I don't have a servant. Foolish boy, think of those who love you. Do they not serve you? Said yet another voice. All right. And blood of an enemy? You must use my blood. It is the only blood strong enough to complete the spell. But you're dead. Where am I getting your blood? Your body was burned when you died. Some blood remains. I will tell you where to find it. Stop, Victoria yelled, and before Harry could stop her, she had pushed away the cloak and burst through the door. It bounced against the wall and began to close again. Harry ran in behind her before the door slammed shut, keeping himself concealed. Teddy pointed the elder wand at the intruder. When he saw it was Victoria, he lowered it, shame and fear clear on his face. Victoria, what? How did you? You must stop this, Teddy, she screamed. Harry was not looking at them. He was staring beyond Teddy, at a truly horrifying sight. Floating in the air, in a circle around Teddy, were 8 ghostly figures of different shapes and sizes. They were all malformed, twisted and broken. The 8 pieces of Voldemort's soul. Harry's mouth dropped open. He drew his wand, but who, or what, to point it at? One of the Voldemort's soul pieces sneered. This is the girl you mentioned? Perfect. She can provide the servant's flesh. Come closer, girl, and hold out your arm. When Victoria recoiled from the voice, he added, You want to help Teddy, don't you? Victoria ran to Teddy and grabbed his shoulders, turning him to face her. What are you doing, my love? He's the one who killed them. Harry moved across the room to see Teddy's face. He was clutching the resurrection stone in one hand and had a manic look. It was then that Harry noticed 2 complete skeletons laying on the bed, along with the partial skeletons of 2 others at their feet. They were Remus and Tonks, and what must have been the remains of their fathers. "No," said Teddy. "It wasn't him. It was the Death Eaters. He would have spared them. He's going to help me bring them back." "They can't be brought back, Teddy. They're gone. He's lying. He's using you." The 8 Voldemorts laughed as one. "The girl doesn't know what she is talking about. Foolish child. You have to trust me, Teddy. Together, we can bring them back." "Shut up! Shut up!" Victoria yelled. She placed her hands on Teddy's face. "Come back to me, my love. We can get through this." Several of the Voldemorts growled. "The girl is getting in our way. We need only her flesh, dead or alive. Kill her." Teddy gasped. "I can't kill her. She's my—" "Do as I say. Do not be weak." Teddy froze. He stared into Victoria's wide eyes. After a pause, he said, "No." A hissing sound echoed across the room. "Do not say no to Lord Voldemort," said the 8 soul parts collectively. They started to grow until they towered above them all, filling the room. "You are weak, like your parents were weak. If you want to return them to life, you will obey me." Teddy and Victoria shrunk beneath the gaze of the giant ghosts, but Teddy stood defiantly and said again, "No, I won't do it. I won't hurt her." The Voldemorts screamed. Teddy and Victoria covered their ears and fell to the floor. Harry used the distraction. He pointed his wand at Teddy and performed the anti-apparition spell. Teddy's body grew momentarily stiff. Harry had to act fast. The spell would not last for long. He ran at Teddy and, with an outstretched hand, knocked the resurrection stone from his grip. The 8 Voldemorts vanished, but their screams continued to permeate the air. Harry dove behind the bed as Teddy aimed a spell at him. "Stop, Teddy," said Victoria. "It's Harry. He's here to help you." "I don't need his help," said Teddy. Harry stood up and pulled the cloak off himself. He and Teddy faced each other, wands at the ready. "Voldemort is lying to you, Teddy," said Harry. "There's nothing he or anyone can do to bring your parents back." "You don't know that. You were just too afraid to try yourself." "Son," Harry replied, sighing. He looked again at the skeletons on the bed. "Have Ginny and I not been a family to you? Have we not loved you, as a mother and father would?" "It's not the same," said Teddy. Tears were falling from his cheeks. "I thought you would understand that, Harry." "Of course I do, but that's the hand we were dealt. We have to be grateful for the family we do have." Harry knelt down. "But don't listen to me. Hear it from them." Harry had picked up the resurrection stone. He span it around in his hand 3 times, focusing on the image of his 2 old friends. Remus and Tonks materialized in front of him. Remus nodded to him. "Watcher, Harry," said Tonks. "Thanks for this. Took you long enough." She and Remus turned to face their son. "Edward Remus Lupin," said Tonks. Her tone reminded Harry very much of Mrs. Weasley. "What are you playing at, kid?" Teddy visibly sank at hearing his mother's voice. He dropped the Elder Wand and fell to his knees. He stared at his parents' ghosts, transfixed. "Why did you not call on us first when you took the stone, Teddy?" Remus said. Teddy's lip quivered. "I thought you would try to talk me out of it, and I was ashamed." "Ashamed of what?" Remus replied. "Of feeling grief? Of missing us? Nothing to be ashamed of, son." Teddy was sobbing heavily now. I just wanted to have a family." Tonks crouched down. "You have a family, kid. Look around you. Look at how many people love you." She gestured to Victoria. "You picked a good one there. You'd better hope she can put up with your craziness." She turned to Victoria. "What do you say, young lady? Look after this one for us?" Victoria wrapped her arms around Teddy's neck. "Until the end of the world." Tonks smiled and stood up. Remus took her hand. "We are very, very proud of you, son," he said. "But you must let us rest now. Put our bodies back where they belong and accept that this is not our world anymore. Do you understand?" Teddy gazed at his father. "I'm sorry, Dad, Mum. I understand." "You have good people looking out for you, kid," said Tonks. They're always around, and so are we. In here, she pointed at his chest. We love you, Teddy. Teddy choked on his sobs. I love you both. Tonks and Remus turned to Harry. It is time, Harry, said Remus. Harry nodded. His friends looked utterly peaceful. He wanted so bad to ask. How were his parents in the beyond? Were they proud of him? Did they know about their grandchildren? What was the beyond like? He had 1,000 questions. Remus seemed to sense his thoughts. He smiled and shook his head gently. Harry dropped the stone, and his friends faded away. Marry that girl, said the voice of Tonks. And take a holiday, Harry. Family first. And then they were gone. The shack was silent, apart from the creak of wooden boards with the wind, and occasional weeping sounds from Teddy and Victoria.